Hello and welcome to this small little seminar here at Rumkraft at Lab Time. And this is number 2 in the series of free VSTs that I'm going to show. So the next in line is actually a EQ, an equalizer. It's called TDR NOVA. Let's bring it up. It looks like this. You can resize it. So, whoa. So right now we could make it as big as we want. I like it like that. So, at the first glance, it's a 4-band EQ, but it is actually a 6-band EQ. But it's restricted to kind of the 4 you can mangle with. So let's try, and here I have some drums. That sounds like this. And we have full, we can see the full thing. So if we want to turn stuff on, we can click on all 4 here on. But let's start over in this corner. We have a high pass cut. And we could have this in 6 dB, 12 dB, 24 dB, and a 72 dB cut. So this would be the same as the Ableton times 4, almost. So what we all call a brick wall. But you can see I can only go sideways and choose the cut of the dB. So let's just hold it here, and we can do it with a low pass. So all the lower gonna pass. So we can say that we don't want anything for here to go past that. And then we could start to implement some of our bands. So you can see right now it's a bell. And when we click that, we have a gain knob for the whole thing, but we have to have this so we can kind of open up what we're going to do. We have the Q, and we can change the frequency. So we can, if I scroll the mouse, I can kind of go up and down in the Q. Or let's say I want the frequency. The fastest way is actually just scroll with your mouse instead of kind of go up and down. It's kind of wonky in that way, so I find it easier just hover over it and scroll with your mouse. We have a gain and down again. So the cool thing about this one is it's not a normal EQ that you would use at home normally, or if you're using Ableton. This is a dynamic EQ. So we can have this threshold, so we can make this EQ a compressor. So what would be the difference between a multiband compressor and a dynamic EQ? Because when we make it dynamic, it's a compressor on the EQ and a compressor on a sideband compressor, or multiband compressor, sorry. What would be the difference? Do you know that? Do you know that?
Maybe it's more soft on a dynamic EQ. Multiband compressor is kind of like you choose the band and it compresses there, and only that. It's kind of like a hard cut. This is maybe more soft.
So he says that it's more soft, and the multiband is more like focused on the band that it's and have like more of a hard cut between those. It's not totally right, but some of it is right. So a multiband compressor is in sections of that bands, and they can compress different on that these bands. It's not that it's more soft. What I would say is that the EQ, the dynamic EQs, is much more surgical, like much more precise in a like this area of the track. Let's say we focus on the hi-hat in certain frequencies per se. We can narrow that a lot more with a dynamic EQ. but it's also, the dynamic EQ is much more rhythmical, it's much more fine-tuning than the multiband compressor. It's more, the multiband compressor is much more handling the dynamics of a track compared to here. It's much more of the sound we're gonna do stuff with. So threshold is, if we click this, we turn on the dynamics of it. So let's say I want to compress the kick here, but you can see we have the oomph down here and we have the click of the kick up here. So the click I want to compress a little bit more. So I turn it on by hitting threshold. So now it's the incoming signal it will measure from. So I can take the threshold down, and now you can see it will kind of start. You can see the blue line around it here. So if I take the mouse out, you can see that the line is just going underneath the blue line. So now it starts to compress, but it's compressing this large area. If we do it like kind of overdo it, you can see now it's compressing a lot more, but then it's the Q, because if now I can compress just this area down here. So now it's compressing the click of the kick, right? And maybe a little bit more, but right now I have the threshold way too low. I would have it probably like that. So it's a little bit more subtle when I'm doing it. Right now we also have the ratio. We'll come back to that later. But the attack and release is how fast the compressor or the EQ now is, that band is a compressor. Sorry. If we take that all the way down and release all the way down, now you can see it gets a lot more responsive. So it's depending on the sound and the result you will have, how fast it should be responsive. The cool thing is, here we can see we have the snares, the snare drum. So let's take number 2, and it's right on top of that. So we're gonna open that up, do the threshold again, take that down, but now we're compressing, and I don't want to compress this. I want to expand this. So if we take the ratio, and let's just stop it. If we take the ratio and go upwards, you can see we have this arrow here that turns downwards, and that means we're gonna compress it. If we go the other way, it goes upwards, and we're gonna expand it. So if we, now we can hear the click of the kick or the snare. It's a lot more, but right now we could, because the ratio is, then we can turn it down. So we get a little bit. So now it's cool that we can expand some and we can compress some. That's pretty nice. Let's have one more band on it. Click on that, and let's just say we want to have that as a normal, but I want to compress it a little bit down from, because we're pushing it now. So I'm just gonna take that down a little bit. So in the quiet areas it's gonna be loud, in the loud areas it's gonna be compressed. But down to the, I'm gonna drag it so it kind of go down to the 0. So everything that's up here is emphasized then. So the drummers get, the top frequencies of the drums get emphasized a lot more. Let's take the last one and take a bell as well, because I want to do this. Make it a little bit faster, responsive. I want to have this as fast so it goes down as fast as possible. That's pretty nice. Cool. What we also can do is, if we're gonna listen to this, I want to hear how much we're gonna do here. We can solo the band. So we can say, okay, I want to have it to ring a little bit more. What we also have this is called white band. So the white width of the band. So when we click on that, you can see it gets a lot more tighter than if we do this. So we can have this going in smaller increments, but it also depends on if we do this, and we'll take this one and go white band. We can have it a lot more smooth. Take white band on this. But now you can see it kind of compressed instead of going upwards, because it's comparison to all of the other frequencies here, the white band. It takes to the two sides, the bands here, and make it whatever that's the most width, okay? Cool. We could bypass it, so how it would sound without it. With it, we can mix it in. Now it's only dry. So half dry, half, it's just, normally we have dry wet. Here it's just dry mix. So here it's full wet, full dry. We could add more stuff to it, like the more volume to it. Yes. We can also go in and say, what's our output gonna look like? So the what do you say, what we call it, the graph, is it our output? We can also see the sidechain. If we're, right now there's no sidechain, because we can actually sidechain all this. So let's go and have, let's say, we'll take this one and put in a sub-ish. Let's just take a sine wave, deep sine wave. So here, let's just have that going to about here. Like that. And then we're gonna duplicate this one. We're gonna drag Nova into Vital. Because now you can see it's actually not gonna do anything. But then in Nova, we're gonna sidechain this into the drums. Nothing is gonna happen yet, because we have to have this one going to external sidechain. So now it will behave from the drums, but on the bass instead. So that's really cool that we can actually make sidechain compression here with this as well, if we wanted to. So let's say we want this one to go threshold. So it will turn down when the kick. Let's hold this. Faster and faster. So we kind of sidechain compress as well on the bass in some form. So this is pretty nice. But let's say we have this, we can also go in while we have none of them chosen. We have this gain. This is the one out here. So we can kind of gain the settings we have. And that's the cool part of this. Or the other way. So we kind of flip it. It's pretty nice. let's say we start all over and take Nova, put on here, just have one band on this, and then we could have threshold on that and compress that, but now we're kind of pushing everything else up and down. If we had, let's put some before this, let's just dial this down and have, let's take a saturator and put afterwards, so a lot more bands to this, and then try and gain this up and take the first one here and so we can kind of, pretty nice, right? And then sidechain it, but right now it's too loud. So we could have a limiter on it, but we can also just gain it down. So we make this pretty nice. So I like this gain knob that we can kind of control stuff. So a lot of possibilities. We have the stereo, we can say sum, the sum. We could say mono if we want to see it in mono, left and right. We have, so precise plus is that it takes more CPU, but it just measures it a lot more clean though. We have AB, so we can say A and B. So let's say on A, I'm definitely not gonna compress it. And how does it sound on B? So we can kind of A-B the different ones, different settings we have. We can take display on and off if we want to, I don't know why, but, and then we can resize. And yeah, that's a TDR NOVA, and wow, it's free. It does actually a lot of the same stuff as the Pro Q4. I would rather say 3 from, what are they called? FabFilter, sorry, right. So let's say Pro Q, just Q, whoops, Q4. So this would be kind of the same I could do with this. I could compress it by clicking here. I could set in here attack and release, which band should be. We could say the band where it should be. So there's a lot more you can do in here, and it's a lot more precise. Like now I'm doing zero latency. I could do natural phase, linear phase. There's a lot more this can do, but it's also really expensive compared to this is free, and it's still a dynamic EQ, and it's really cool. Yeah, of course I use Pro Q4, but not a lot of people want to use a lot of money on stuff like that when you can get almost as good as result with this one. Almost, I'll say. There is a difference, but not a big difference. Do you have any questions? The sidechain again? Yes. So let's say, we're just going to remove this. We have it on a sub. So let's say I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to take the sidechain signal from my drums. And then now in here it has to say, right now, not when it's called internal sidechain. So internal sidechain is just the what it does to do the compressor in here by the input signal. By here, it will take the external side chaining, so the one we put down here, right? So it will kind of do it for the kick down in this region. If I put it up here, it will sidechain the snare, right? So we can kind of sidechain it on that, but we could have it going like that. So it kind of, you know, stuck when the kick is there. And then have this to go fast because, yeah, make the sidechain like that if you want to. But you could sidechain band if you want to. You could, yeah, do different stuff. Yeah. Cool. Well, that was it for this time. Hope you enjoyed it. And in the link, I would, in this YouTube video here, I would leave a link to where you can get it. Yeah, please go get it because it's really, really cool. See you next time.